Hello, I'm Anika from Made to Sew and welcome to our What Is tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be explaining what is a grain line. Generally speaking, when you purchase a fabric there may be 3 grain lines that are spoken about. However, one of them is the most important. I'm going to discuss all 3 and then we'll refer to the one that you really need to remember. So the first grain line is the vertical or lengthwise grain line, and this is in line with the selvage edge of the fabric. If you're unsure what a selvage edge is, or you don't know how to find your selvage, then please follow the link in the description box below to our corresponding What is a Selvage tutorial. So the lengthwise or vertical grain is in line with the selvage and runs parallel to the selvage. The other grain is a crosswise or horizontal grain, and this is at a 90-degree angle from your vertical lengthwise grain that runs along with your selvage. When you go to a shop and you ask for a number of meters or yards, the line that they cut is going to be on your crosswise or horizontal grain. And that's this edge here. This is the edge that can fray, and when they cut it, may or may not be that straight. The other grain that you need to bear in mind is your true bias, your bias grain, and that is 45 degrees from your selvage. So it runs in between the two. And the reason why you need to know about that one is because that's got the most stretch in it. So in terms of the amount of give or stretch in the fabric, the lengthwise or vertical grain has the most stability in line with the selvage. If you pull on your fabric there, and we're talking about woven fabrics here, woven no stretch fabrics, you'll find you can't get much with that grain. On your crosswise or your horizontal grain, it still will have very little give, but it will generally have a tiny bit more than what you get on your vertical lengthwise grain. So you'll get a little bit more on your horizontal, on the edge that you get cut in the shop. Whereas on your 45 degree, your true bias, you will end up with a lot of give. And you can see the difference in the fabric that I'm working with here. But please do have a play with some fabric at home so that you can understand that. And it will help you to learn to understand your fabric a bit better. So what is the most important grain that you need to remember? It is, of course, your lengthwise grain. It's your lengthwise or your vertical grain, whatever you wish to call it. And it is parallel or in line with the selvage. Now this is the grain line when patterns refer to position your pattern on grain or match up the arrows with the grain line. This is what they're talking about. They want it to be parallel to the selvage. So if we take a look at a pattern here, this is a dressmaking pattern for a skirt. You should be able to see an arrow sitting in the middle of the pattern, and it will say on the arrow grain line. That means that that arrow must be parallel to the selvage. So when I position this pattern onto my fabric, I will need to measure probably once at the bottom and once at the top of this line to make sure that the pattern is sitting completely straight, in line and parallel with my selvage. So therefore it is on my lengthwise or vertical grain. You will generally have a line with either one arrow or 2 arrows, one at either end, and the markings or instructions of grain line. And then you should know to position it parallel to the selvage and make sure that you measure it so that you're not putting it on by eye. You're measuring from the top and from the bottom of that line to the selvage to make sure that the pattern is sitting completely straight on your fabric. I hope that I've been helpful with my explanation of a grain line, and I hope that you feel a little bit more confident in what you're going to be doing and what you're planning to make. Good luck with your sewing, and thank you for watching.